is a form of resistance. There comes a moment when knowing the truth isn't enough. That's when a people must decide, will they act or remain controlled? Every oppressed people reaches a breaking point when patience runs out. Determination takes its place. If the truth makes you uncomfortable, good. That means it's doing its job. Every generation is faced with a choice. Submit to injustice or draw a line and defend its future. I don't negotiate my dignity. I don't apologize for my humanity. A people who respect themselves demand respect. Once a people understand what's been done to them, there's no going back to sleep. Awakening changes everything. Power doesn't listen to requests. Power responds to pressure. And a united people apply pressure. No one respects a people who refuse to defend themselves. Self-respect begins the moment you draw a line and refuse to be pushed back. You don't free a people by changing their chains. You free them by changing their thinking. That's where real revolution begins. Power never concedes without pressure. And when a people apply pressure together, history moves. You don't awaken a people with comfort. You awaken them with truth. And truth always comes with resistance. You will never rise higher than the women you stand on. When the black woman rises, the whole nation rises with her. We declare our right on this earth to be a man, to be a human being, to be respected as a human being by any means necessary. You don't have a revolution in which you beg the system of exploitation to integrate you into it. Man, they don't hate you because you're violent, they hate you because you're waking up. The most dangerous black man in America is the one who thinks for himself. A man who knows his enemy and knows himself can never be conquered. Revolution is not a whisper, it's a demand. And when a people decide they've had enough, history has no choice but to move. I believe in human beings, and that all human beings should be respected as such, regardless of color. You can't borrow your freedom from the man who profits from your change. Freedom is taken by those bold enough to claim it. You don't get justice by staying silent. You get justice by standing up and refusing to move an inch. If you want to change your condition, you must first change your courage. A fearless people can't be oppressed. You can't be respected in this world until you control your own economy. Spend with your people. Build with your people. That's real power. The media is the most powerful entity on earth. It can make the innocent look guilty and the guilty look innocent. That's power and that's propaganda.
The most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. Free your mind, and no system can hold you.
They divided the house of the black man, made us enemies to our own. But once we recognize we are one people, no power on earth can stop us.
So black people provide the votes. Black people provide the margins. Black people provide the loyalty. Black people provide the congressional seats. But when it's time to write the policy, black people get folded into this everybody else people of color thing. And so over the past 60 years, what has the Democrat Party really offered black people? We got welfare programs, but the white people got that. We got set-asides, but the white women got that. We got these symbolic appointments that don't mean anything. We got this diversity language. We got a lot of speeches. And a lot of these policies didn't rebuild the black community. It didn't restore the black community. It didn't create black ownership. It didn't return stolen land that we took after the Civil War ended and after Reconstruction. They didn't give that back. They didn't repair the damage from slavery. They didn't repair the damage from Jim Crow. They didn't give our forefathers their GI bills. They didn't make up for the hundreds of years we were redlined, the discriminatory lending problem, the segregated schools, the government-backed exclusion. It did none of that. In fact, a strong argument can be made that many of these so-called solutions, shout out to FBA Justice, many of these solutions that they gave us actually weakened the black community because they treated black people as a poverty class instead of a people owed a specific historical debt. They gave us dependency instead of repair. They gave us programs instead of power. They gave us access instead of ownership. You can have a job, but you can't build your own business. And they gave us diversity instead of.
Hey, you guys, welcome back to K&J What 5HT channel on YouTube, where we talk about World Health Academia and Times. That's what that what stands for, the acronym what. And that 5HT is for when you don't want to accept or swallow the truth. The truth can be hard. The truth hurt. The truth helps, is healthy, and the truth heals. That's where we are. And I'm here to tell you, man, that, look, this thing is real. This thing we doing now is real. If you saw at the beginning, there was no better way for us to open up, especially talking about Gen X generation, the X factors. Malcolm X. What he had to say, how he felt. Because we lost him during the Gen X era. We also lost Martin during the Gen X era. We also lost Sam Cooke during the Gen X era. Medgar Evers was taken away 2 years prior to the Gen X era. Robert Kennedy, the brother of JFK, John F. Kennedy, was taken away 2 months after Martin in the Gen X era. I would say all these people champion us. Even JFK in 62, he was supposed to be one that championed us. That's when most of our people went from being Republicans to Democrats. They was following after JFK, not LBJ, not Lyndon B. It was JFK that we followed over to the Democratic Party because he sounded as if he championed us. But anyway, all of these people were taken away in such a short period of time, and most of this happened in the Gen X era. So I can understand why they would deem it Generation X. Would it be because they X'd everybody out? Also, our music was tainted. It began to get tainted at that time. Is that another way of Xing out a generation? Not only that, shortly after then, on into the Gen X time frame, by the time Gen Xers are 16, 17 years old, the crack epidemic started with the millennials coming into play. But the Gen Xers suffered the bigger part of it because they were the parents of the millennials. Is that another way they was Xing out a generation? They turned us against one another. Is that another way they X'd us out of the in this generation? They changed our movies. They turned our movies into dope dealers and pimps and prostitutes. Is that another way they X'd us out of this generation? Gen X went through a whole lot, whether you want to accept it or not. If you checked out the couple of posts that we talked about, and then not only Malcolm, but the guy spoke so eloquently about us and our voting and how civil rights was supposed to be and how it turned out to look for us, which is for everybody but us. Everybody is included. Everybody getting lumped in civil rights. Our main man Martin had no idea that it was the civil rights movement that he thought that he helped push through with these civil rights bills being passed up on the LBJ, and it had some attached to it as well. It took the father out of the home. Is that another way? This generation got X'd out. This generation is the X factor. I would say went through so much trauma without being attended to with mental health, physical health. It doesn't really even matter. They had to deal with a a people and a generation that they birthed or descendants to come behind them with all of that trauma. They were called the latch and key generation from 1965 to 1980. The latch and key, their parents mostly were single parents, thanks to LBJ. The father was taken out of the home, and now the kid is left with, listen, I'm going off, I'm going to work, or don't you open that door for anybody. They had keys. That's why you look at the post and what this I want you to look at this guy. As a matter of fact, he's a kind of comic, and then even in he's comical in his ways, but everything he's saying is on point when it comes to the Generation X and our plight in that timeline. Check him out.
We had to clean up every day. No questions. Wash the dishes. Dry the dishes. Put up the dishes. Vacuum the carpet. No vacuum. Broom. No carpet cleaner. Nothing. Mop the floor. No mop. Towel. And y'all talking about feelings? Feelings is for the weak. We got told stop crying before I give you something to cry about. No babysitter. 6 years old. Key. Letting ourselves in the house like we owned it. Buying alcohol and cigarettes with a note. Food stamps. No money. No debit card. Nothing.
Yeah, he seemed kind of comical, but he was on point about a lot. And that was just our side. You know what I'm saying? That's how we viewed it, our people. But I want to give you another clip of the other people. You have to think about it now. They were Gen Xers as well. Now, we're not just talking about us. We're talking about the generation itself within a whole, because John D. Rockefeller had already did his work on us through the the General Education Board. So, he had already done his work. You can look at our past posts about JDR. He had already done the work, and now it's working. So look at what the other people that don't quite look like us, when it comes to what how Gen Z view them. Check out how they feel about it.
Time for boomers and Gen X to sit down.
Oh, you want the boomers and Gen X to sit down? Well, sweetheart, Gen X would love to sit down. We fantasize about it. We dream about it the way you dream about becoming a digital nomad after quitting your third job this quarter. You think we're standing because we crave control? No, we're standing because if we sit down, the Wi-Fi goes out, the payroll freezes, the lights flicker, and somebody schedules a mental health summit to discuss why the printer feels unheard. Gen X isn't as in charge. We're not. We're just the duct tape holding all the dysfunctional daycare together. We're not CEOs. We're the CPR. We're the middle child of generations. The boomers built it and Gen Z critiques it, and we're in the basement resetting the damn breaker because somebody microwaved a Pop-Tart in the foil again. You want us to sit down cool, take the wheel, but historically speaking, some of y'all can't even hold a job longer than a seasonal pumpkin spice release without posting a resignation reel about toxic vibes from Linda because she didn't validate your aura. You don't want to run the world, you just want to rebrand it. You don't want responsibility, you want reimagining. You don't want a full workday, you want a flexible framework featuring feelings, ferns, and frequent feedback. And listen, change is fine, progress is good, we like progress, but progress requires perseverance, and perseverance requires staying at something longer than 2 months without announcing, I'm pivoting. You say sit down like we're hogging the throne, but baby, there ain't no throne. It's a folding chair from 97 with one leg shorter than the other, and we've been balancing on it since before dial-up. We don't want power, we want peace. We don't want control, we want a damn nap. But until somebody proves they can work a full shift without needing a spirit journey and a Slack announcement about their boundaries, we're just going to stay standing, not because we think we're better, but because if we don't, everything stops. And sweetheart, we're tired, but we ain't stupid.
Okay, that was kind of somewhat of a different take, but all pretty much, the same. They saying basically the same thing. They landing on the same land strip. They at the end of the day, they landing in the same spot. They might be articulating it differently and excuse some of the vulgar language, but I'm just saying we can't get past that in this generation. I'm just trying to make a point. I want you to see something. I want you to see how Gen X feel about the generation that I just posted about, which were millennials and Zers. You already see how the Zers felt about them. I'm just trying to bridge this gap. We're trying to see these differences and why people feel like they feel. Now I want you to check this one more out right here with the young lady and how she viewed her life as a Gen Xer and how it affected her moving forward as an adult right now today. Check her out.
Everybody from Gen X is emotionally void. Like, really, what?
Hey, sugar, it's me again, the Gen Xer. This is what happened to us. The boomers that y'all idolized, they're our parents. They raised us. We come from a generation of children that were seen and not heard. If you spoke without being spoken to first, or you were listening to adult conversation, or in the room where adults were talking, we got beat. You got smacked in the mouth. We had to pretty much be independent and raise ourselves. If we cried, we got something to cry for. We were traumatized as children. Many of us were left to raise ourselves and help raise our siblings. I'm the eldest of my siblings, so I had a key to the house at 7. I knew how to cook meals at 7, and I'm not talking about put shit in the microwave, baby. We didn't grow up with microwaves. We had to bang them pots. So I knew how to make a pot of beans. I knew how to make cornbread, greens. I knew how to fry chicken at 10. Okay? I knew how to change diapers because I had to, or else we got whooped. I come from the generation where crack affected mothers, and so I had an aunt who was a crackhead who abandoned her 4 children, and I had to help my grandmother raise them. Okay, that's what happened to us. The boomers traumatized us. They traumatized us, and as a result, when we had you guys, the millennials, we didn't want to traumatize y'all. So we pretty much let y'all be independent. We allowed y'all to have an opinion. We allowed you to speak when not spoken to. So you guys are, in a sense, kind of like the boomers, because we were so traumatized that we just kind of, we mentally checked out. I'm in therapy again. Okay, I went to therapy after my divorce to try to address some of that trauma. And now here I am, divorced 10 years, 11 years out, and some of those traumas are being triggered and resurfaced. And so now I'm back in therapy again. So you guys idolize them for that attitude, but what y'all don't realize is they fucked us up. Yeah, baby, they fucked us up, especially if you're from the South. Okay, we got our asses beat in the South. Switches, extension cords, a pot or a pan, a backhand. Baby, it wasn't nothing for us to get knocked unconscious as children. Okay? So that's why we kind of disappeared. That's why we ain't having no barbecues and all that. We don't want a people. We're tired. Okay? Mentally tired. And we avoid people and we avoid shit like that because we don't want to be triggered. Okay? But
Okay, she had a lot of good things to say too. So for my millennials and my Gen Zers, check this out. Man, trauma happened in Gen X time frame. I got a guest that's going to be coming on. We're going to discuss it. My guest Steve, he'll be coming up shortly. We're going to talk about some of these things and some of his life experiences as well. He's a back end baby boomer, as myself. And we right at the door of the Gen Xers. So I chose him to kind of discuss some of the experiences of our Gen X generation, the X factors, because I really consider us the X factor. it was a lot of things that occurred that bring us to where we are today in this day and time. And it was traumatic without the doctor. It was very traumatizing without the hospital. And when I'm saying that, I literally mean emotionally, physically, and spiritually, a death was taking place at that particular time in the Gen X era. So millennials, y'all roll with us. Zers and Generation Alpha, the young man that just so tragically lost his life. Well, it didn't just happen, but the trial was just over. And the guy that was of another ethnicity, he ended up getting off from actually doing away with this guy. And he did it while the guy was running away. I thought that was a no-brainer. I thought it was against the law, but obviously laws vary not only from state to state, but laws also vary from ethnicity to ethnicity. I'm just saying, because I'm a licensed concealed carrier, and I had to go through school, and some of the things that they told me in school that wouldn't stand in the court of law, for some reason, it wasn't applied like I was taught. But there go that schooling and that education thing again. So you Gen Zers, you know what I'm saying? You millennials, you watch out. And you talking about boycotting, it's going to be difficult to boycott, especially that ethnicity. They own everything. Are you going to really literally seriously stop getting your hair done, young ladies? Are you going to stop buying the weave, young ladies? Will you quit going to the nail salon, getting your hands and toes done, young ladies? What about the cosmetics? Are you going to really seriously do this thing? Can you really boycott? And if so, for how long? Because you got accustomed to a style that you like now. The Gen Xers, we were natural. Most of our women were natural. Some of them wore wigs, of course, but not in the fashion that we do today. They were mostly natural. And if they had nails, they weren't nails that they went purchase. They grew their own nails. They probably get a little thing of fingernail polish, but these people were not able to come in our community, in our neighborhood, and exploit us and get wealthy at the same time treating us any kind of way. So look at where we are now today. If we don't have a lot of business owners, I knew a business owner that tried to go into that actual profession right there. I say they opened up the beauty supply store. Now, being like us, looking like us, the market is already cornered. They had to get all their supplies from the people that cornered the market. Who got the market cornered? The same people that you go to today, that look at you and talk all different kind of languages around you and make fun of you. You don't even know what they're saying, but you give them all your money, and you keep giving them all your money. So this couple, a married couple, they decided to start them a beauty supply store. But the problem was they couldn't get all of the supplies that people that look like us, that we were wanting, like the type of hair or different human hair or whatever product that we would need for us. They were not, being the one that controlled cornered the market in that area. They wouldn't sell to them. And then when they tried to go international, they found out that it was bigger than just getting it from a warehouse. They own the warehouse, and they own the international imports that came in. So you know what happened to that black-owned beauty supply store? First of all, their prices was too high, because when they was buying from the people that got the market corner, so they was selling it to them at a higher rate. So for them to get a profit, they had to sell it to us at a higher rate. So we like, oh no, I don't go to them, they're too high. So I'm gonna go back over here to Mr. Lee. And anyway, that's the way they did that. And they got the market corner. So eventually that business was dissolved. I don't even know if they stayed in the business a good year. They couldn't do it. The market was cornered. And it was showed to them like, you cannot infiltrate in this area. Find another business. We got this. So you talking about boycotting because they got off with doing away with the young man? How long are you going to stay away from a beauty supply store? How long are you going to stay away from getting your nails in the nail salon? How long can you stay away? I'm talking to millennials and Gen Zers now. And some Xers and even baby boomers, you go too. You go too. So how are we going to make this work? We got to come up with a different plan than talking about boycotting, marching, lobby. Look, let me tell you something. You in a place right now that you're going to have to figure out how to get out of it. Gen Xers, baby boomers, we did the best we could. Millennials, Gen Zers, the ball is in your court now. It's mostly you guys that's making them rich. It's mostly you guys that's standing in the Nike line for the $300 Nike. It's mostly you guys. So how you going to pool your resources? How you going to utilize your buying power, your money? Can you actually go natural? I love the black women that be natural. You don't need to go buy somebody else's hair for me. I like you the way you look. But the problem is you don't like the way you look. So I can help you with that. Only you can help with that. You got to be able to look in the mirror and love who you see in the mirror and love what you see in the mirror. Decide where you're going to let that money go to. And by the way, Mr. Carmelo Anthony, I want to talk about him just a little bit too. His trial, all this is just a mess. And a lot of it's for distraction. Like I say, every time we find something that racially gets us moved and emotionally has us all out of whack. And then the image in the White House does a great job on us anyway. And he love it because that's what he do. He's a prankster, jokester. He know how to get you unhinged. He say stuff to get you unhinged. They do stuff to get you unhinged. They get you watching racial, these racial inequalities that's happening across the board. And at the same time, they sneaking laws through on us. Let's talk about this law that just got passed in New York, where you got the mayor Mamdani, the socialist mayor, that's going to change the largest state in the country, a socialist state. And we're going to be rolling. It's headed out west now because California and New York, they dictate as the country goes. So now they got this bill that just went through all of their state representatives and congressmen. And all they need to do now is go to the governor's desk to be signed. And guess what this bill is? This bill is outlawing using the word mother and father. Now, out of all of this that's going on, and you guys be jumping up and down and screaming about what the image doing in the White House, I want to see you jump up and down and scream about this because the image in the White House, he's not spearheading this. This is a state thing right here. This is a state thing. Yes, it is. And the governor, I see her signing it all day long because this is what they move off. They move off this gender affirming stuff. They move off this immigrant stuff. This is what they move off. That's what you call progressive. The progressive movement is on the rise and it's crossing and sweeping this nation. So while you crying and jumping up and down about the image in the White House, tell me how you feel about them outlawing using the word mother and father. Then I tell you how words get changed. That's why I go through Paleo Hebrew meanings when we talking about scripture, because words get changed. Being translated from Latin, which is the Roman dialect, and they watered everything down anyway at the Council of Nicaea up under Constantine. They went to Alexandria, burn up all the books. Do you know what you read? Understand it, what thou readest? Okay, so my Gen Xers, we gonna talk about what we went through a little bit, or I stand there with you for a minute. What we experienced, like I say, all the trauma taking away the leaders. We didn't follow. We didn't agree with everything Malcolm said. how you wonderfully spoke at the beginning of the post here. We didn't agree with everything that Martin did. At the end of the day, neither did the two. Malcolm discovered some of the things that he could have did different before he was taken away. Martin discovered some of the things he should have done differently before he was taken away. Where's the grace? Millennials, Zers. Then we got Alpha. They being look what we are. Stay out of the Nike line, man. Get out of that line from pressuring people to get you a $300 shoe. What you need with a $300 shoe? That makes you feel good? It makes you look better? That it makes you better than the next? Think about it. I'm just saying, just think about it. And at the end of the day, what's the competition about anyway? I thought it was about movement forward. My FBA friends, talk to me. Let's do this. We got a guest coming up, and we're going to talk some of this stuff with him as well. My brother Steve coming up right now. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to this particular part of our post here. I got my brother Steve up here, and we're gonna talk about a few things. We're gonna talk about some Gen X stuff right here. We're gonna bring some Gen X stuff to the table. However, both of us are back end baby boomers, so we might talk a little bit about what we how we viewed our parents and things like that. But other than that, we're gonna try to stay clamped down with this Gen X generation, because I consider the Gen X generation being what I call the X factor. So brother Steve is here. I'm gonna tell you, man, he is a very accomplished guy, military guy. Worked for a pretty prominent Fortune 500 company for years, and ultimately, once he left there, he moved on and started his own thing. So we're gonna chop it up with Steve and pick his brain and see and see how this Gen X stuff gonna work out for us. What's up, Steve?
Hey, brother Jay, how you doing?
I'm good, man. I've been waiting for this moment. I tell you like this here. I had a couple of interviews. I had a Gen Zer. Of course, we had to discuss the baby boomers, because, Gen Zers, they got a thing going on with baby boomers, and I'll say Gen Xers, because they think we being boomers and then Xers are kind of over the top, and we kind of love what they call lost in the sauce, And I had a millennial. It was a pretty interesting talk there. But you and I, we're going to chop up some X. We're going to chop up this Gen X, which is from 1965 to 1980, because I consider them the X factor. So what's up, man? What you got to say about this? It's like the new generation and how they view us, bro, Steve.
Well, let me say this. The baby boomers, kind of like the. Is it safe to say it's like the kind of like the industrial age?
Yeah, very safe. Very safe to say they the silent reserve. It came up really with the silent reserves in the generation 1946 to 64, and a little bit before then. But that's the industrial age. You on point. You on point.
And for baby boomers for that era, because there was industrialization was rising, and companies during that era, they was competing for top talent, so they had some nice offerings, for potential hire or employees, to entice them to come work for them. And those things were like more. The biggest one was a pension, and so now we know that the word pension is more or less dead, you know, these days, and it start dying out during the Gen X generation. You know, to be honest with you, because like you said, I work for a Fortune 500 company. I worked there 35 years, and when I first started there, you know, in 1987, they had a pension plan, and that was in 1987, and then by 1992, they no longer offered a pension plan to new hirees.
That's something else right there. Now, see, you see what you did. You just enlightened me on something. That's why I like to chop it up with people, and because that's how we get to learn not only one another, but the life experiences and some of the things that we don't even think about. Because I knew of a pension. I've always known of a pension plan, but that was interesting what you just said, how they kind of phased it out, and they slow phase things a whole lot, man. And I wonder, even with this, even by us talking about like Gen X, even calling the generation Gen X, it make me think about something, man. It make me think about a lot of things that happened in that particular era, and I'm just gonna bring up a few. And because I have to say this, because if we got any millennials and Gen Zers listening to us, the ones that don't really understand us because they don't know our plight, and we trying to understand them and their plight because we get to see it, they didn't get to see ours. So, like during Gen X, let's say 1964, some interesting things happened right up in there. I think we could start with Medgar Evers, although he got killed. Well, he was unalived, I'll say. He was taken away from us prior to the X movement or the Gen X babies. That was in 62. And then right after that, we had another interesting figure, Sam Cooke, who could have been really effective in because I'm going off these people because a lot of us, we cherish these people and we listen to them and we follow them. Then we had in 65, we had Malcolm. He was taken away. And then shortly after that, this is trauma for us, but I guess the millennials and Gen Z, they won't understand this, but this was trauma for our generation. Then we had Martin in 68, and in the same breath, a couple of months after Martin, we had another. He didn't look like us, but he was championing our people, which was Robert Kennedy. He was running for president. They had already did something to his brother in 62. So a lot of that happened within a short span. Let's say from 62 to 68. That's 6 years, man. And I just named some very key figures that we listened to, and all of a sudden they gone.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And those folks, man, they made huge sacrifice, man, and they laid the foundation for some of the things that we enjoy today, and some of those things are trying to be taken away.
Yeah. And that's why I said all that to say it's interesting that they will call this generation Gen X. It's like you getting rid of something or you Xing something out. Like I said, a lot of things happen. So I want to ask you a question right quick, bro. This is concerning our parents now. So first question I got for you is how did your early life experience as a borderline baby boomer, Gen Xers, affect your views? How did that kind of affect your views? Like you just almost said something a minute ago, but so just being that borderline baby boomer, Gen Xers, and like the views you have today, did anything or somebody that just jumps out at you right now to say, okay, this is a person that really helped shape some of my views?
Well, you know what? It's a really deep conversation. You know, I mean, I could go, all over the place with it because there's so much, man. And like you said, man, that's a lot of trauma, you know. And and when you're a young person, man, um, depending on where you grew up, you don't know what's going on, and so your parents have to teach, I grew up in a single parent home. You know, my mom was hard work. So, you know, she worked, you know, 2 jobs. You know, I'm one of 7 kids. I'm actually the youngest of 7 children, you know. So I had a single mom, you know, and so, you know, just trying to survive, you know, that was her job, was to make sure that we had everything that we need and that we was taken care of, that we had housing, food, clothing, you know, and access to education. And she was able to do that. Now, what she didn't do, of course, is break down things as far as, you know, uh, the causes and effects of why we was living the way that we were, you know, and this and that and the other. So, you know, sometimes older folks, they just don't have those conversations. They just tell you that you need to go to school, get an education, and get a job, you know. And what happens, especially for a person like me, you know, you start picking up pieces along the way, you know. Uh, you know, it just depends on the type of stuff that interests you, you know. And as a young person, history wasn't something that interested me, you know, because I was in survival mode. You know what I mean? So again, I really didn't start just truly learning about history and what that mean and how that affect me then and today, you know, until I was probably in my late 30s.
Wow. Okay. You know what? That's interesting, man. I'm listening to some key things that you were saying here, and as I can relate, I'll say, and try to get the younger generation of millennials and the Zers to understand actually what we're dialoguing about and what we're trying to get them to see. You said something. Our parents often hid stuff from us. They didn't say a lot of stuff. I guess in their word, they were allowing us to be kids. Like a lot of times we didn't even know that we was poor. You know, long as we ate something, you know, every now and then we'll get hungry, man, but we'll find us a bologna sandwich, or whatever kind of sandwich, a syrup sandwich, or man, whatever we could find, man, you know, for real. This is real talk, but we never knew that we was really impoverished. And a lot of stuff, they kept it to themselves because they say it was grown folks' business. However, we don't live in that world today, man. We live in a world that's it's being bombarded with information, both bad and good. You know, at you have it right in your hand. You can access anything you just about want. So our parents were very much different than the parents that we have today. Parents, they like to be their kids' friends. They talk about a whole lot of stuff. It was certain stuff. One thing, we were not our parents' friends. That's number one. No, your friends out there. Your friends out there. So, and they just didn't, stay out of grown folks' business. You know, a lot of times, and what you consider, like you said, like this historical stuff, it could have been grown folks' business for your mom. I understand the single mom too. The latchkey generation, we were, man, they put a lot of stuff in our hands. I'm pretty sure the baby boomers experienced it too. But you know, they called it the latch and key generation because your mom and stuff more than likely was working, man. She had to go to work. There's no a man more than likely in the home. You know, they just say, hey, look, don't open that door for nobody. That was it.
Absolutely, man. And you know, you're in survival mode. You know what I mean? And you know, we mentioned I work for a Fortune 500 company. Uh, James, Jay, I was so fortunate, you know, to get that opportunity. One thing that I know that everybody don't get to work for a Fortune 500 company. I mean, that's just not how it is. You know, small businesses employ most of America. You know what I mean? You know, so for me to work for a Fortune 500 company, I got exposed to a lot of different things, you know, associated with, you know, business, finance, and how the world work. You know, I work for a global company. They was international, you know, and I learned a lot. So, and I understand, especially today, that everybody don't get those opportunities, you know. And but as it relates to our parents, you know, they was in struggle mode. You know what I mean? And you know, and of course, like you said, there were boundaries. You know, my mother and I, we were not friends. You know, you know that don't make her a bad mom. I mean, she just played her role, and I had to be the child. You know what I mean? You know, and those lines are very much blurred today for sure.
Hey, you know, I have to laugh. I have to laugh at that, my brother, because you know, I think about it, and then I think this is some of the places that we probably could have went wrong. When I'm saying we, I'm talking about this generation now, talking about I'm not gonna do my kid like my mom did me, and you know, stuff like that. But here's the deal, bro. Um, yeah, they were in struggle mode all the time, and you pretty much kind of answered the question that I was going to ask you about, you know, how I mean, did you agree with the decisions your mother made when it concerned this civil rights struggle? But however, you just said a lot of that she probably didn't just go over with you about. So this is what I want to ask you then, because you was a military guy, right? You was a military guy. Tell me how that happened.
Man, we grew up in in the hood, of course, you know, and so my mom, you know, she was always worried about her children, you know, and like I say, I'm the youngest of seven, you know, so when I graduated high school, you know, of course, I was the last of the Mohicans. You know, I was still at home. I had my oldest sisters; they was working, and then I had some more sisters and brothers. They were in college, so I was the last one left at the house. And so when I graduated high school, I actually went to a trade school. At that time, it was called State Technical Institute. So at that time, I wanted to become an electrician, and I ended up at State Tech because I waited too late to get into an electrical apprenticeship program. So the closest thing that I could get to electrical was at that trade school called State Technical Institute. So and I majored in building construction technology, which basically was training you to become a carpenter. So you know, I learned a little bit about plumbing, electrical, blueprint reading, land surveying, concrete and masonry, and stuff like that. So I really liked it, So and me and my friend that I grew up with and graduated high school, he went to State Tech with me, and his mom and my mom was pretty good friends. And one day we came from school, and I got to my house, and you have a door and then you have a screen door, right? And so for some reason or other, I peeked through the screen door, and my mom said, "Come on in here, boy. I'm gonna save your life." And when I went inside, there was an army recruiter sitting on the couch, and I didn't readily know in that moment that at my best friend's house, an army recruiter was sitting on his couch as well. His mom and my mom had collaborated that I guess they were gonna save our life. So basically, they was trying to get us out of the hood.
Hey man, so see now you see how that works. I'm just listening to you. Now I'm looking at the parenting in that day and the parenting compared to today. The kids get a chance to make a decision. I'm not gonna share it though, but I tell you it was decisions that was my granddaughter was allowed to make. I don't think she was old enough to make the decision. Somebody should have made it for her. But back in those days, they were making those decisions for us, man, and setting the pace. And see, the thing about it is, they were doing what they deemed good for us because they had already experienced their parents really being impoverished, man. You know, because back in baby boomers, like you said, there was a lot of stuff going on, man, that I don't think this generation could handle today. They think they could, but I don't think they could. So you said something. You said something about your siblings' college, and then you said trade school. So my next question then I'm gonna ask you is yeah, that's for that you see what they should understand what right now is that's for a person that's in demand. When you it's like you got to cut it off, right? Because you in heavy demand, doc. Okay.
Right. Look, this is a guy that I've been trying to buy a car for my daughter for, and he ain't responded me in 2
And now
weeks.
he wants you.
Called me, you know.
Oh my goodness. Oh, well, okay. Well, let's push through this then, so you can handle that business. That
You know, I don't think that you could go wrong either way. It's gonna always go back to your determination. You know what I mean? You know, and what you want to make of yourself. Now, you know, you can go to college and well, let me say this. When you're trying to decide, you know, what it is that you want to do in life, that's it's not easy. You know what I mean? Because even though when I came out of high school, I said I want to be an electrician, I didn't decide that until after I had graduated. You know, I didn't work my way up in researching, you know, let's say from 6th grade up into high school, I wanted to be an electrician. That's not how that happened. You know what I mean? I just made a decision when I graduated that okay, well, I'm gonna do this. You know what I mean? And I'm sure I'm not the only one that was in that kind of boat to make those kind of decisions because you know you just don't know. You know, I worked at a Fortune 500 company for 35 years, and in those 35 years, I really didn't know what I wanted to do within that company either. It just when the opportunity presented itself, you know, I kind of just took advantage of it. You know what I mean? So when it comes to college, now at the age of 62, I would tell a person today in today's environment, you need to, money is very, very important, you know, and being fulfilled is very, very important too. But money is going to help you be fulfilled. Okay. You know, and so you need to be selecting something where you know that it's going to take care of your immediate needs and it's going to take care of your retirement. See, if you're graduating college today, now is the time to be thinking about retirement. Today, not 10 years later, not 20 years later, today. And whatever that company is offering you, you know, to help you with your retirement, you need to take advantage of. You know, and these would be the type of things that my mother wouldn't have known because she didn't work in that type of environment. So she wouldn't have been able to pass this on down to me, you know, like I'm able to pass it down to my children. So now, if you're gonna go to college, I suggest that you choose a career that's gonna make you some decent money. You know, and there are a lot of college careers where you don't make a whole lot of money. You know what I mean? You know, so usually the ones where you make a lot of money is going to be engineering, tech, you know, stuff like that. You know, so if you're gonna go to college, I said go for one of the high skill deals where where you're gonna make some decent money. You know, you know, and now trade school. That's how That was the route that I was going. Look, in the business that I'm in today, I deal with electricians. I deal with plumbers. I deal with roofers. I deal with freaking masonry. Everything that I was going to school for state tech, that is what I'm involved with today.
So that's what we're gonna roll into right now. Then we're gonna roll into that because you know we're talking about the 35 years you put in with the company. So I'm gonna ask you this question: in a comparison to being an employee or a manager for a Fortune 500 company, and this was a very prominent company. From your start to working yourself into a leadership role in management, and up to what you're doing now, like owning and operating your own business, and the comparison in that. And before you answer that question, the company that you was working for, I knew a guy by the name of K. Reeves. I don't want to put his whole name out there, but I think he was up there too, within the company. And I'm pretty sure y'all probably crossed paths somewhere down there. But just tell me.
I used to report to him.
Okay. Well, anyway, your comparison to when you started with this company, working your way to where you were, in comparison to now, doing what you do, and how would you have any? What would you say that helped you with the Fortune 500 company or working within their confine to doing what you do now?
Well, you know, a Fortune 500 company, you know, the number one thing that they are concerned about is their bottom line. You know, they want to make money. You know, and that's the number one most important thing to them. If Fortune 500 companies usually, you know, they would train you. You know, they want to keep you up to date. You know, in your skills and your knowledge. You know, so even when you graduate college, you know, you go to work for a Fortune 500 company, chances are you're going to go through some type of training program to prepare you for your job. You know, and that's what happened to me. You know, and as I've seen, you know, this training is for certain jobs. You know, all jobs, you know, they don't have a training program. Because when I started with the company that I started, I started at the bottom. I started as a mail clerk, and then I worked my way up. Once I started working my way up through the company, then that's when I entered the various training programs. You know, so yeah, so everything about the Fortune 500 company, and I'm sure at smaller companies as well, but I'm just speaking to my experience. Everything was about was a business concept, you know, and about growth, you know, and about supply chain, you know, and about making a profit, you know, and training, you know, and evolving technologies and whatnot, you know, the principles of business, you know, ethics, you know, morals, you know, integrity associated with business. And we took classes on those things, you know, to make sure that we was aware that we was going to be operating in good faith and where not to cross the lines that and get yourself in trouble, to get the company in trouble, you know, stuff like that, you know. So after working for them for 35 years, you know, I've learned a lot, you know, in the business sector. So now I say, well, hey, Steve, you know, you can take some of those principles and apply it to your own. And that's what I do. You know, some of the things that I've learned, you know, I apply it to my own business. And if I work very, very hard for that company, and so why wouldn't I work very, very hard for my company?
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. And that's and I already know your work ethics. You and I, we did a couple of business ventures together. And I respect and admire the way you handle all things. You know, we talk on the hands of being friends, And then when we enter into a business venture together, we do our best to make that business. We keep it business, and I like that in you. And you're a pretty I'll say meticulous guy about how you want your stuff done, how you want it to look. I respect that highly because I work with a lot of people that they just don't care. Just give it to them for the cheapest price that they can get it, and only for them to come back later and say they don't like it because they want to go the cheap route. But I have people to know that that's never been you. Not when we did business venture together. You would always like, well, we doing this now. We gonna do it, and we gonna do this thing the way I need to see it done. I do have a budget, but if we happen to exceed it, then it's going to be for a call that we need to make that decision on. And I've just watching you, I've learned some things, the way you maneuver with your business and how I try to apply it to my own.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And look, I want to do things the right way, you know, and I want to make money, and you can make money the right way. You know what I mean? And on my job, there was demands put on me, So now when I have my own business, I got to put demands on myself. I got to apply those same principles. Somebody got to be held accountable. And the number one person that's going to be held accountable, that would be me, So, I'm the tip of the spear. So I'm managing this. So, and throughout this process, I want to make sure that I'm treating the people that I need right, so therefore I can demand what I need from them.
Those sound like good pointers for successful business if you apply some of that. And like you said, the number one person that should be held accountable when you own and operate your own business, start with yourself. Michael Jackson say the man in the mirror. I'm finna hit you with something now, man. We finna roll into some waters. I gotta ask you a question here, brother. And I'm just, I'm interested to see how you respond. I'm gonna throw this out at you because this was in our era. I went through some names about the people that was taken away from us, but I'm gonna give two key names right now because they were two different people. They both had impact on our generation and generation prior to us, and I would want to say even on to this generation that we're in right now today. But there was two different roads, two different paths. And I'm finna ask you a question. Malcolm or Martin? Roll with it, man. Tell me something.
You know what, man? I'll tell you this right here. Man, you talking about impact. They were impactful, man. They made change, and they was two people that you could get behind, and even though they had different ways to go about it, the goal was the same as far as what they wanted. They wanted people to be treated fairly, and and they wanted people of color, to have an opportunity. Now they just had a different way of going about it. So the thing of it is that, in my opinion, you cannot have one without the other. There's a yin and a yang, and this is life. You need the hard approach and you need a softer approach. You know what
wow.
I mean? You need
yes, sir.
Combination of them both. You know what I mean? So you need somebody that want to shake your hand. And you need someone that want to hit your big toe with a hammer too. Let them know that we can do it together. And if you come against me, there's gonna be some resistance.
Wow. So that's interesting. And when you was talking, I was thinking about something, right? You're thinking about, see, maybe a person would answer like, well, I liked him, or I disliked him or whatever, and you chose to go with both. And like you say, we need that. Like you said, the yin and the yang. And the first thing I thought about was a positive and a negative. If I can just, I'm not trying to say neither one of them had a lot of negative with them. Although if you talk to certain people, they would probably challenge or contest what I just said. But that's fine too. I was thinking about me using the positive and the negative. I'm thinking about the battery. Without the positive and negative, the car goes nowhere. They both have to operate. So it's a positive and a negative.
That's right. And you know what, brother Jack? That is not an opinion. That is a fact.
Yeah, and look, it's an interesting fact too. I'm thinking like, yeah, I mean, serious. It's interesting, and that's how we have to operate. So I myself, I don't. Early in this post, man, when we rerun it and edit everything, you'll get a chance to see a couple of opinions from two different sides of Gen X's, man. We're going to give our side. And when I say our side, the viewers know who I'm talking about. When I say our side, I'm talking about the people that look like me and you. And then we're going to give a view on the other side, how they even say, and that's almost like that yin and the yang, but they both speaking the same language, but they approaching it in a different way. Now, bro, I haven't done the building in some time now. And you and I, we strike up conversations a lot. You asked me a question, and this was an interesting question. And I'm really not veering off topic. I just want to say something about this because the building, I call it the building or the church today, is totally different than the church that we knew. Although we have a young generation today that don't even trust it, period. They say that the book or the scriptures is the white man's book. And, so they don't read it. So my suggestion was they may as well quit reading all the other books, and even the books that took them through school too, because if quote unquote, that's the white man book too, because you can't have it both ways now. But you asked me a question, and man, I got to bring this up because it made me think, and a lot of stuff is cliche-ish, and we bring it up on our own, and it would be found nowhere in scripture. You asked me, was the Most High, does he really have unconditional love, or how do we express the unconditional love that people always talk about, that the God that we say we serve, he got this thing of just unconditional love? And you asked me about that, and I thought about it. First thing I thought, I was like, would I find unconditional love word verbatim in the scriptures? And then I said, no, I would not find unconditional love in there. So is it anywhere in there that I can find it that will lead one to believe that the God that everybody, most Christians, I'll say they serve, is they got this God that got unconditional love. So you asked me a question about that, and I think you had a verse of scripture you wanted to talk about. Was it Matthew's what?
I think that was Matthew
5:20,
verse 44. It's
about loving your enemy, right?
Yeah, it is. That's part of it. It's loving your enemy, and it's about forgiveness.
Yeah.
And praying for them.
Yeah.
And this and that and the other. The problem that I had is loving your enemy. I got a problem with that. I got a problem for praying for those who wish to persecute me. You know what I mean? I got a problem with that. And according to scripture, God got a problem with it too.
See? Now see, and then when I talk to you about these things, I never try to just jump straight to a conclusion. I never think about the cliches because we've been taught so many things that's just so untrue. even with the unconditional love, you say, so if we got the unconditional love, and in the same breath, he say he's a jealous God, and you say I can't put those two together.
No, you can't. You know what I mean? And just think about it for a second. Um, Unconditional means that there are no conditions. You know, so if there
Pretty
are no
much.
conditions, then why is there a Ten Commandments? You know, so the Ten Commandments, those sound like conditions to me.
See, and my thing is, here's the deal. See, I don't be ready to jump in that big fight, you know, because of something that somebody taught me, or it sounds so good that they was, you know, hooping and hopping and hooping, and it sounds so good to where I just believe it just because. But see, when you say that, and a person, you really think about it. We like to do critical thinking on this channel here. When you really think about it, and then we want to use basic logic too. When you really think about it, it's like, well, he got a point. So how could I talk that away with what you just said? Well, if it's unconditional, don't we have a 10 commandments? I'm trying to figure out how I can talk that away as a Christian. How can I explain to you that has nothing to do with the unconditional love?
Yeah. You know, look, if you, I'm open ears. you know, I don't have all the answers. Some things, uh, of I done figured out on my own, and I might be done figured out some things that might be wrong. You know what I mean? So I'm always open for correction. You know what I mean? Because correction, that's gonna help me. It's not going to hurt.
You also said, see, I like what you just said. It's going to help you. It's not going to hurt you. Because also on this channel, we talk about the truths and those 5 H's. That's what the 5 HT is about. The truth is hard. The truth hurts, but it ultimately it helps you. It's healthy for you, and you can heal. We was talking about back to the unconditional love thing. It's another thing it's another question you posed to me. You like, well, didn't it say? And see, you love to go to the scripture. A lot of people run from it, but you use it. You're like, but didn't he say he hated Esau, but he loved Jacob?
Yeah, absolutely. That you know what? That's one of the latest ones that I like to quote and think about, because there was a reason why he loved Jacob, and there was a reason why he hated Esau.
Would you call those conditions? I don't know. I'm just asking.
Well, here's the thing. He loved one, and he hated the other. So, any enemy of God is an enemy of mine. So therefore, I'm not gonna love my enemies. Nah. Why should I love someone who seeks to take my life? I can't love that person.
Okay, bro.
Yeah.
Hey, look, and like I said, I'm not going to be the one that be jumping in no all-out debate and fussing with you about it, man, because if I really think about it, pretty much makes sense. And I know you use the word, we talked about that word blessed, and the blessed actually mean learn or give an understanding. That's another thing that's been taken away. Let's say words again, man, because so many words has been changing the meaning of the words, from being translated from Latin, also being translated from Aramaic, and it's just all these different translations. And prior to that, you got the tablets, man. You got the Sumerian tablets. It just goes so deep, bro. And words just get changed, and the meaning of the words get changed. In case in point, let's just say today, I just heard something about yesterday that in New York they already passed a bill that you can no longer use the term mother and father. And now, no, I'm serious. And now, only thing that has to happen is the bill has to go to the governor's desk in New York, and Kathy Hochman, I think that's her name, and she's going to sign it. So now it'll be against the law, or they might even consider it a hate crime up under the Patriot Act. People don't know nothing about that. That hate crime came up under the Patriot Act, and you can do a lot of time for a hate crime. So they want to erase the word mother and father because there is an initiative that's being pushed today to where this gender war we in, man, and it really basic logic again. It makes no sense to me at all in the world. Why would you want to get rid of the word mother and father? How does that sound to you?
Well, you know what? That's from a natural standpoint and from a spiritual standpoint. This is how we blur the lines. You know what I mean? And see, according to scripture, we're not supposed to love the world. The world is enmity with God. You know, so my enemies are in the world. You know, and so it makes sense to me if I'm supposed to separate myself from the world, then that means I can't conduct myself like the world does, and I cannot, act like the world. In other words, Brother Jay, I can't be on the fence because God has a problem with me being on the fence. You know, He said, I got to love one and hate the other. I got to pick a side. You know what I mean? So now, I'm going to be sanctified or not, or I'm just going to like saying the word. And see, that's a lot of good words that you can say out of scripture. Now you can say it. Now living it is quite different. You know what I mean? So I'm trying my best to live it to the best of my understanding and to the best of my ability. And even then I come up short. And yeah.
We're going to do that. Yeah. Because all of us are fallible. For all have sinned and fallen short. Right? They say of the glory of God.
You know what, Brother John? Let me interject this. And I know, you and I, we talk about the scriptures a lot, and I want you to correct me on this. And I'm bringing this up because I think it's relevant. And it needs scrutiny. You know what I mean? And that is, if you go with the Protestants, and they say that there are 66 books, from Genesis to Revelation, right? So that's the Protestant version, if you would, right? It is my understanding, you correct me if I'm wrong on this number, there are 37 different writers,
Pretty much, yeah.
With 37 different writers, it's not far-fetched to understand that that's going to be some nuance.
See, and well, yeah, we out here now, but a lot of people don't want to actually hold claim to that because we've been taught that the word of God is inerrant, it's infallible. We've been taught that it is the God we serve is omnipresent, He's omniscient, and He's omnipotent, all power, know everything, everywhere at one time, all the time. So we listen to these men get these oracles in the pulpit, these fallen, infallible men. And a lot of times they use terms that has nothing to do with what's in the book itself. It's already have enough scrutiny on its own, like you just said about the different writers, and then getting translated from one thing to another one, and the words starting to change the meanings and all of that. And here we are today. So we look at those men in the pulpit, and we esteem them so high, we don't understand it gets to a point to where we've actually really created our own personal little idol god on this planet, and we'd be doing it unaware. That's how the enemy sneaks in, and that's how he gets you. Come in unaware and have you thinking you're doing a good thing. Like I was telling my brother, the road to hell was paved with good intentions, and we be having good intentions. So we hear all these things that's coming out of the pulpit, and I often say this to you. I don't do the building right now, and it ain't because I can't go and find one, especially when you got a church on every corner. It's because of what's coming up out of there, and I know I'm going to be controversial, and I know eventually the leaders of that particular congregation and the people will not like me. And I try to say the same thing to you, and the reason I say that is because we talk. And I know the questions that you have, and the questions that you have, it's not welcome in the building. There's questions that you have which are legitimate. It's not welcome in the building.
Right. Well, you know what? Man love his traditions, right? And and the children of Israel was no different. God gave them laws, and then what they do, they added to it, right? you know God don't, it's not God that make things hard for us. Man make things hard for ourselves and for us.
Yeah. That's well said right there, man. I was just thinking, I know this, like a lot of time when you go into scripture, they can get pretty it can get pretty heated. They said politics and religion. They said don't discuss it. Here's the deal. We failed to discuss both politics and religion in these last couple of generations, and here we are today. So today, rather than discussing those very necessary things that we need to discuss, whether we see eye to eye or not, we can come together on the differences and see if we can meet in the middle somewhere. At the end of the day, it needs to, and it has to be discussed, because there's no way around neither of the two. We're going to always have government, and you're going to always have religion. So now we got a generation that listen to a type of music that we never would even had a chance to even sample. And our music was based on love, coming together, and all of that. And here we go again with Generation X, right? Because by the time the X generation became teenagers, 16, 17, crack cocaine was thrown in the neighborhood. Let's go and finish this generation off. We already took care of the leaders. Now let's finish them off. We took care of the music. We slowly changed the music from them coming together and having a message in the music. And now we're going to change their music as well. So they don't, our generation today, they think they know politics. They don't, but they don't do politics, or they don't do religion, but they do the music. And the quote that I often use, it was what Lennon using in his song, one of the Beatles. I don't know who actually the quote belonged to, Socrates or Plato, but it just makes a lot of sense. This is what the quote says, my brother. It said, "Give me control of a nation's music, and I care not who make the laws." Can you see us being in a place today to where the nation's music is causing this moral decay and this civil unrest that we have?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's money to be made too, right? It's strange how some way that's always at the root. You know what I mean?
Oh, you slid that one in for free, always at the roots.
Yeah, man. And man, it's a system. It's a worldly system of Brother Jack. And what it is, what I have learned in my 62 years is that the standard for the world is that there is no standard. Anything goes. That's why we, as believers, we're supposed to separate ourselves because we're supposed to have standards. You know, can't be on that fence. You know, we can't be promoting sexual manhood when God says don't fornicate. If you fornicate, you ain't coming through my gates. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't get through my gates. See,
Yeah.
the world, we anything goes in the world. That's why they come up with what you just said. They're gonna blur the lines between a mother and a father now, a man and a woman. You know, you know, gender neutral. I mean, you know what? And this is the world for you. And you know what, Brother Jay? According to Scripture, ain't nothing new under the sun. This is always been.
Look, bro. I
This
just
ain't nothing new.
the last. I mean the last post that I just did about JDR, John D. Rockefeller, and his General Education Board, his system that he set up, and I happen to just say the same thing you just said. There's nothing new under the sun. This thing we've been here before. We've seen this before. I was just thinking like even in the heat of today's what we up against, it's a lot of talk going on about the Asian guy that did away with this young black guy that they said he was trying to steal out of the store, which he didn't end up stealing anything. And the Asian guy chased him down and took his life. And he got off, and everybody upset and saying, don't go to the Asian store no more because we love to boycott. That's our thing, marching and boycott. We got to come up with a different system, but I just want to say this. Don't go to the Asian store anymore. And I asked the question, is it possible? How can we make that happen? We do not go to the Asian store no more. So I asked the question, and it's mostly for my young sisters. Would they really stop buying nails, hair, and cosmetics? Would they really stop? Because they can't go to a store with people that look like us, because the people that look like us don't have the same supplies in their store, because the Asian has cornered the market when it comes to this beauty supply stuff. They not only own the stores, they own the warehouses, they're in control of the international imports. So you saying I'm gonna go to a store or a black person store and get it, that's pretty much not relevant. So how did you boycott the Asian store by and what did you do? You stop buying the nails, you stop buying the weave, and what do we do? How do we make that happen, Brusty?
Well, if we do anything, it's gonna always be around the margin. You're not gonna get 100% buy-in. You didn't get 100% buy-in with Malcolm and Martin. A lot of our people thought they were troublemakers and making it harder for black people. You know what I mean? And so the thing of it is that here's the separation. Either you're gonna be sanctified or you not. Mr. Jack, brother Jack, if you are not sanctified, then you're gonna go by the world standard. And the world standard is there is no standard. Anything goes. So the thing of it is that you're gonna be all over the place when it comes to the world, and you're gonna get a handful of people that's gonna buy in and some that's not. And we know that people are not gonna stop buying nails and hair from them, and that we're not gonna stop eating their food, and look what Target did back here in December. They did a little this little sale, right? they sent out and said, if so many people come in at such and such time, you're going to get this and you're going to get that. And a lot of people felt like they got conned because when they get there, the gifts wasn't what they was thinking it was going to be, and this and that and the other. So all it takes for people to come off their high horse, or let me say, to compromise their moral, is run a sale. Do a sale and say, I got a giveaway. It's going to be free. And people will set their moral compass aside and go get what they want.
And I'm going to say this in some cases, man, like you say, just give some away free or give a sale. I'm going to say this, and sometimes they don't even have to do that. And the reason I'm going to say that is because let the new Nike come out. Let that new $300 shoe come out. They're going to be in a line, man, early in the morning. They're going to fight on who first and all that to buy a $300 or $400 shoe. And I've never understood it, but I guess it's not for me to understand, because why? Is it because I'm not a part of that thinking and in that generation? I'm just saying, and you've been saying a lot of good things. So, if we can wind this up, I want to ask you this final question right here. How do you view the word change? How do you view the word change?
There's a number of things that come to mind, but I can sum it up with one word. Inevitable. For better or for worse, change is going to come. Tomorrow's going to be Tuesday, whether I'm here or not. You know what I mean? So change, it is inevitable. Now, the thing of it is that, how do we go about making change? How do we navigate it? How do we create some type of normalcy in a changing world? How do we stick to our principles? How do we stay on guard? You know what I mean? So the thing of it is that God has given us what we need to be able to navigate this world. And then if we endure, Brother Jack, then we get the white coat, the white raiment at the end. And then Yeshua says that when you endure to the end, I will acknowledge you before my Father and his angels.
Well, that pretty much sums it up. That's pretty good. And you got to you make sure you keep using that word Father as long as you can, because in a minute it seems like it's going to be outlawed in the state of New York. So when you go to New York, you may have to find another word other than mother or father, which makes absolutely no sense. It's no different to me than the image in the White House that a lot of people say he makes absolutely no sense. I come to tell you they all, to me, make absolutely no sense, because we got so many things going on in our time right now. How do you guys find time to pass a bill that has to do with taking the mother and father out of the equation? Come on, man. Grocery prices off the change, gas prices off the change. We won't stop conflict with other countries. We can go on and on, man, about what's going on in our society, and the moral decay in this, we got civil unrest, because I think a lot of this stuff be for a distraction, because with the distraction of what this Asian guy just did, and now we on the heels of Mr. Carmelo Anthony, young guy that's about to go on trial for what he did to this other guy that don't look like us. And he live in a sundown city, and his jurors were all none of them look like him. So a lot of us say that's not going to be a fair trial. My question is, it's like, although we know what we be up against and what we've been up against, not only you and I, but our parents, and then this generation today that think they got it figured out. They actually really think they got it figured out. And until they get out of the Nike line, buying the $300 shoes, they got a lot of good ideas, but until they get out of that line, and when they start wearing their own natural hair and nails and all of that, then some of the stuff that they say will be more pliable to me, but some of it is far-fetched. They don't understand, and they say we don't understand them, but my thing is, I'm trying to figure out how do we bridge this gap between our generations. And we were just talking about the X factor here. They took a lot of people out that had some sort of vision, whether you agree with it or in line with it or not. But we got a lot of people now with no visions. It seems like they out for themselves. You said the word. You can trace it all the way back to money. Money is the root, and we being sold out to money, my brother. We being sold out to money.
We are, man. And, you know, like, you know, you said it, you know, there's nothing new under the sun, you know, and, you know, man has always, what we see today, man has always been like this. You know, and things cycle in and they cycle out and then they come back around, you know, and, you know, and see, because the reason why I cycle back around is because the way the system is set up is that these new people, they need to experience it, right? You know what I mean? They need to they need to experience some of this old stuff, right? You know, and look, and if the devil have his way, he gonna make sure that you experience it, right? You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, the scripture says that the devil cometh but to kill, steal, and destroy. Now, you know what? I don't doubt that the devil does that. But I'm going to tell you what man does. Kill, steal, and destroy.
Let me tell you something, man. That's a drop the mic moment right there. You know what? That one right there, that's a drop the mic moment. You have given us a lot to think about, and especially with, I'm going to call that your closing argument. If we just thought about that alone, what you just stated, it should help those of us that do the building every Sunday and some on Saturdays, and to those that never even step foot in the building. What you just said, the devil comes but to steal, kill, and destroy. And the last time you checked, man comes to steal, kill, and destroy. I appreciate you, bro.
Oh yeah, man. You know what? Hey, man, it's been real, man. I appreciate the invite, man. And you know,
we're gonna do this again. We're gonna do it again, but next time we're going some deep waters. We just gave him a little bit about our perspective back end of the generation. We are baby boomers, but we're on the back end right at the Gen Xers. We kind of talked about some of their plight. I'm gonna continue moving with this, and like I say, man, everything that you've given us today, we're gonna hang our hat on. You said a lot of good stuff. The next time we get on there, we just gonna go on in the deep water, man. So to those that don't frequent deep water, bring your life vest with you.
And thanks again, brother. And you know what? This is a two-way street, man. You know, you ask those questions, man. You know, and you got thoughts behind it, man. You know what I mean? And hey, man, you know,
I want to hear your thought.
Yeah, this is what we do, man. You know, and we gonna keep it up. As a young
Yeah,
folks say.
that's what they say. We're gonna keep it a buck, man, and we're gonna keep it moving, man. So I thank you again, bro, Steve. I'll be getting this stuff together, and we'll touch bases again. Until then, man, you go ahead and get to that business of yours. Take care of that. I'm gonna do a few things, and we're gonna holler back. Okay.
All right, my brother. Appreciate
Sign
it.
it. Thank you too. All right. All right now. That was Brother Steve, man. He had a lot to say. We probably could have went further and went on, but I think we accomplished some of the things. It's so much went on, so much more went on within the Gen X timeline, and that affected even the millennials. Like I said, that drug that was dropped in the neighborhood, by the time the drug was dropped in the neighborhood being crack cocaine, Gen Xers were teenagers, 15, 16, 17, and millennials was just getting introduced. They had taken away our leaders, and it was just devastating. And none to think of, the building in the church went from being the lead headquarters for not only spiritual but social, civics, and all of the above. We went to the building for that, but no longer that was the case, because the church crossed over to what they call this faith initiative movement, and then they went into a prosperity movement. So it rose from faith to prosperity, and they still operate today up on a prosperity movement. So people in the building are being navigated away from truth. So we want to thank you guys again, and we're gonna do this all over. We're gonna have a baby boomer coming, and they'll be coming in the upcoming weeks, hopefully, and we'll chop it up with them. And till then, I want to say, like, subscribe, hit the notification button. Yeah, like, please. You don't have to comment, but that's what we are today. Come check us out. Keep the journey going with us. I want you to check out the K meal of the day. Look at that poetry K did. We're going to be chopping that up. I'm telling you, that writing at the end of this post here, K is it's exclusively and originally written by K. This is what she do. She's a poet. And we're gonna dissect it. I still been trying to get her to be a part of that post, but we don't know. I can't promise you that, but however, I will, even if I have to bring my own commentary on it. Like I say, I see a lot in it. And check out our next post coming up. We talked about some of the other things pre-post, JDR and the value of decisions. Just check out some of the posts. You get some good content out of it. Till then, I want to say thank you guys for tuning in. We looking to see you again. So, like I always say, when this thing is done, what the flux? I'm out of here.
There's a story of a family, a couple in Mali from the ancient days. And it's a man and woman. Man comes home from work and his wife has really long hair down to the floor. And she asked her husband, she said, honey, I would like to get this comb. It's very expensive to take care of my hair.
Right.
And he says, I'm sorry, right now we can't do that. My watch just broke, and I need this watch for work. So I gotta get my watch fixed. I'm sorry.
Right.
So he left, went to work, came home. As he was coming home, he went to the watch store to repair it, and he said, you know what? How much would you give me for this watch? He sold the watch and went and bought her that comb.
Wow.
Came home excited.
Right.
Honey, I got something I want you to see. She came out, and when she came out, she had cut off all of her hair.
Oh, wow.
He said, I just bought you this comb. Why'd you do that? She said, well, I cut off my hair and I sold my hair and I got you this watch.
Wow.
See, that's the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
Where two people are really trying to figure out how their love can anticipate the need, and they can show you, I love you more than you love me. When you got that kind of competition going on, you got a healthy relationship. You don't have to get into such of a job.